Okay, welcome to another edition of Basics Training, Classroom Management Edition, the program that tries to help teachers learn some of the skills that, while very important, generally are not covered in teacher college and turn out to be some of the most important things in the classroom. Today's topic is going to be the first entrance into the classroom on day one. And I've jokingly put in underneath, uh, or how you win or lose the whole year. And that might seem a little extreme, but I honestly believe that kids have pretty much decided a lot about you by the time their little selves have sat in a desk. By the time they have sat down, they've decided a lot about how they're going to behave in your classroom. So I'm going to give you some ideas of things that I have found to be important. Now, let's start off with what not to do. I'm going to start by quickly saying that in almost every building, my favorite person in the building is the music teacher. I like to play a little music myself, and I love musicians. I love music teachers. I love their openness to helping you learn things about music. They have a very open style. They're very creative and thoughtful, and they tend to be my favorite people in the building. But uh, I have seen some examples of what I would say not to do from some of these people. So let's just start, for example. Um, I have walked my children down to the music room before. I have them all lined up. They paraded down there nicely. They were calm and settled and lined up along the wall waiting. I told them to wait until I had spoken to the music teacher, and I wanted the music teacher to come out to the hallway, greet them, and then take over from there. And on more than one occasion, what the music teacher has said to them is, okay, uh, let's get started. Everybody just go in and find a seat somewhere. And it was a very interesting scene. Let's just say that the first child in line was not the first student to set foot in the classroom because other students proceeded to run past them, knocking over other people on the way. And basically what it turned into was a group of students falling into the classroom, and that was their entrance. And as they went in, of course, they ran to different areas. Well, of course, chaos erupted because everyone wanted to sit it next to their friend. And since the seating didn't work out that way, some tables there were only 4 seats. There were 5 friends, so that led to all, basically, here are friends coming to fisticuffs because there's only 4 seats and there's 5 friends. Um, and basically, I'm standing at the door just looking and partially thinking, oh my goodness, now I'm going to have to get these kids back after class. I'm going to have a talk with them before I ever take them back to my class to remind them that every teacher has their own rules, but when we get back to my room, things are not going to be going that way. And try to do that as diplomatically as possible. Again, everyone is enabled to have their own style, but there are definitely some less stressful ways to do things. So let's go through what some of those things would be. Okay, prior to the school year, some of the things, some of the opinions about classrooms or the way things run happen before kids even arrive on September or whatever the first day is. I almost believe that, and there are exceptions, don't get me wrong, but in general, I can walk down the hallway of an empty school building the day before school, stick my head into classrooms, empty classrooms, no one in the building except myself. I could walk through, stick my head in classrooms, and already see some classrooms that are going to have some trouble. Um, One of the things that I've often talked about with new teachers is that uh, there's a difference between you as a person and you as a teacher. You as a person have the right to maintain your home in any way that you wish. If you're a person who likes to locate their their clothing, because it's, in different piles on the floor in their bedroom, and you kind of know where things are, and you like to pick up through the pile and find the shirt you're going to wear today, that is totally fine. in your personal life. However, once you get to your professional life of being a teacher, organization is necessary. It's a job requirement. So the classrooms that I would notice already that would be concerning is sometimes I'll walk in and it's coming up on the first day of school, and I realize there's lots of, different variables that affect these things. But I'll look in a classroom and there'll still be boxes on a shelf on the side. There'll be a table in the back with just clutter all over it. The desks will be, let's say that they're in rows. The rows aren't exactly straight, a little bit, sticking out a little bit. Maybe they're in tables, but the tables are kind of in different angles. Um, Even your directions, the way that you are, excuse me, your decorations. When someone looks at your decorations like that, and believe me, I hated doing decorations. But the thing is, I knew they were important. So the way that you put your decorations, the way your posters are on the wall, like are they arranged in a neat, orderly way? And again, in your home bedroom, you can put them, upside down and backwards and on the ceiling. It doesn't matter. But when you're in a classroom, all of these things matter. Why? Because kids form opinions very quickly about how they're going to behave based on the feeling they get when they first even look at your room. Um, I actually have a couple of friends who, while I love going to their home because it's such a chill feeling in their home, um, I have found myself with my shoes on actually put my foot on their coffee table before. And I don't even realize I'm doing it. And then at some point I might look over and go, oh my God, I have my foot on this guy's coffee table. Well, that's because of the atmosphere that was created by the way that they keep their home. I have other friends who not only would I get yelled at for doing that, I would never think to do that. For some reason, like generally my shoes would have been taken off at the door and this wouldn't have been an issue in the first place. But I just would never think to put my foot on the coffee table of other friends. Same thing with students. Certain behaviors they would never think of doing in certain rooms, and the way the classroom is organized is one of those things. Another quick idea of something that a friend of mine had done in classrooms was he had put up these how-to sheets all over the classroom. I had told him that it was important to have a system for everything, even down to like how to sharpen a pencil. And what I mean by that is that, in my classroom, only one student can ever be standing during regular time. So that means if a pencil needs to be sharpened, one kid can get up and go sharpen it. No one else can stand until that kid has physically sat down again. So my buddy had gone so far as to actually type out directions over by the pencil sharpener that basically said how to sharpen your pencil. Number one, make sure no other student is standing. Number two, stand up. Three, make your way quickly over. Four, sharpen your pencil quickly. Now, this might sound ridiculous to some people, but he was experienced like I was, and he knew that if you do some things like this, especially at the beginning of the year, and get the kids off on the right track, that those are the kind of things you never run into all these other problems. Like they'll never think of putting their foot on your coffee table because they know that this is the kind of room where that stuff doesn't go on. Yet they'll go to next period, and let's say it's a middle school, they'll go to the next period and they'll stand on the coffee table without thinking twice. And that's because they very quickly form opinions about what they can and cannot do. The next thing is that it's important to have a seating chart. Again, the teacher that I was joking about basically said go in and sit down. I can't even emphasize. I'd almost say give it a shot your first year, and then you'll know what a bad idea it is, but it's such a hard thing to recover from. I would not want a beginning teacher to try it. The seating chart, I came up with a semi-cute idea a couple years ago. I was teaching sixth grade math, and I had 130 students a day in 5 different sections. That is a lot of names to learn. And one thing that I know is it's really important to kids. Like I work very hard to learn their names super quickly because it means a lot if you can say their name. It's much different to say, Tom, could you look over here real quick? Rather than, excuse me, could you look over here, please? And so I came up with this idea to try to help myself, and what I did was I arranged my kids by alphabetical order. but not by last name because last name was unhelpful to me. What I did was I actually arranged them in alphabetical order by the first letter of their first name. So as I was standing in front of my classroom, I knew that as I looked to my left, that table, the kids there, their first names either started with an A, a B, or a C. There was a bunch of Anthony's and Amanda's and Bobby and Carla's at those tables. And if I looked off to my right, those were kids, as it wrapped around the room, it kind of went alphabetically around, and then it ended up on the other end with kids whose names like were X, like Xavier and Viola and Zeus were all kind of to the right. So I did that for all 5 periods, and it did actually help me because I knew no matter what period it was that if I looked in a certain direction, what part of the alphabet the names were probably coming from. Some people might think that's a little nuts, but it definitely helped. Okay, now, the first day. I always say that if I had a young teacher come in and hang out in my classroom to watch the first day, and I'd have them sit in the back of the room and say, just sit and watch. I would say my goal is that before they ever sit down, before their butt touches one of my chairs, they know that this is my classroom, which I will be happy to share with them, but it's mine. And that there is definite order and control in this room. Now, how do you do that? Well, again, what I've done in advance is I have made up my classroom list. If it has if I have 5 periods, I'm going to have 5 lists. I'm going to also, I have tables, but it would work for rows as well. On every desk, I have put a index card, and it says on it period 1, and I have the kid's name, period 2, and the kid's name, period 3, kid's name, on each desk. So that's already there in the classroom. And then what I do is when they show up for class, I do not let them in my room. I stand at the door and I have a clipboard, and I basically act as a maitre d'. And basically I have my clipboard, I have my seating chart on it, and I greet them at the door. And I say, "Hi, what's your name?" One of the other things that I've seen is teachers get kids in the room and then they start trying to read the names out. With the names the kids have today, there is such a variance. Gone are the days of Tom and Mary. You do not, personally, I do not want to try to start phonetically calling out kids' names because you're going to hurt one kid's feelings, you're going to get everybody laughing at someone else, and it leads to chaos. So I greet them at the door, and if a few of them show up, I actually have them line up right outside. Like I say, just stand here along the wall outside my classroom, and I greet them at the door and I ask them their name. And they say, "Okay, my name is Joshua Jones." I say, "Okay." I look down at my clipboard. I say, "Josh, you're at table 4, seat 3. Table 4 is right over there. Look for your name on the desk." And then he's gone. And then I get to the next person, and she tells me her name, and then the next kid, and the next kid. And as they're going in, I let them go in and say, "Sit down." If any kid is taking too long, I might say, "Are you having trouble?" And if not, generally they say, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for my name." Good, and they sit down. After like 4 or 5 kids are in there, what I say to them is, as anyone else joins your table, as soon as they're seated, you guys can talk, but I would ask you to just, talk low. And kids have no problem with that, and they're all getting seated as we go. Now, uh, depends on the building. I used to never have trouble with this, and now I've had a couple teachers have issues, and they'll have to come up with their own solution. I personally have one way of getting my students' attention. I never ever, I cringe even at the sound of it, is a teacher in the front of the room saying, "Boys and girls, boys and girls, boys and girls," repeatedly, and no one's giving them attention. Part of it is that sometimes kids don't even really hear them. Like they're just one more voice in the room. And the other thing is it's all auditory. So my system's a little different. What I do with kids is I tell them that I'm going to, let's say that I got like 10, 15 kids in there. What I will do, I won't explain what I'm doing. Usually in classrooms, there's more than one light switch, so I'll usually turn out one, and there'll be a slight change of lighting in the room, and then I will say out loud, and they don't know what I'm doing. I'll say 1001, 1002, 1003, and then I'll turn out the other light or the other 2 lights, and it'll be dark. And I will then turn the lights back on and I will say, okay, now I'm going to be doing that for every day this school year, all the way through June. This will always be how I get your attention. I will turn out one light, I will count 1001, 1002, 1003, then I will turn out the second one. At that point, I don't care what you're discussing, I don't care if you're in the middle of a sentence. Whatever you're saying, when it gets dark, I don't want to hear a sound. So, go back to what you're doing and keep talking. And in a few minutes, I will do that again. And what I'll do is go back to letting kids in the room and, hi, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. You're at this table. But every once in a while, I'm going to hit the light, go 1001, 1002, 1003. And then I'm going to say, and then it'll be dark. And then as soon as I turn the lights on, I'll say, I should not hear one sound. And that's how I'll get them right from the first moment, is that when I say there's going to be quiet, there's going to be quiet. I will address individual names. Like I will say, sorry, what's your name again? Tom. Tom, let me say this again. When the light goes out, I don't care if you're in the middle of a word. Don't finish the word. I give you time to talk in my room, but when the lights go out, there will be silence. And basically, I don't even get into consequences at that point. I don't feel that you need to. Okay, now, summary. I don't like to think of the year as a war, but if it were, I think the winner is determined on the first, before they even sit down. If you can teach kids that you're in control of the room before they even sit down, they will form opinions about how they're going to behave in your classroom, and you'll avoid so many issues. Like people will sometimes say to me, what would you do if blah, blah, blah happened? And I'm always like, I've been teaching for 20 years and that's never happened. I guess I might do this. But the reason it never happened is because since kids knew that they had to do so many different behaviors and there was routines for everything, they never thought to do some of the ridiculous things that they will do with their creative little minds if you don't have consistency. Consistency is that I think really good classrooms, if you do this right, even October 12th when you're out, it's kind of scary how much your students will still follow the routine even with a sub, if the routines in your classroom are consistent enough. So can't emphasize enough that really the first day of the school year is pretty much the most important day of the school year. And if you do it right, life will be good. And if you don't, ugh.